If you're interested in web design, I want you to really pay attention to this video from beginning to the end because I'll be sharing with you nearly 2 decades of web design knowledge. Okay. So one thing here are the fundamentals I want you to pay attention to. When you think about web design, in the last 20 years, it has remained the same. So basically, this is a field related to designing websites on the internet. Okay. Without a good design, a website fails to perform well and cannot actually produce a good impact on the user. So your user experience is going to suffer if you don't have a good design. So design actually is a creative process that affects the ranking of the brand, right? SEO, but also when it comes to how people perceive the brand, let's say in general. So a good website design helps to create an engaging online presence that actually captivates your audience. And I don't care about the industry you're in. You need to really pay attention to design for UX and UI purposes. When it comes to a website design, you have to really pay attention to what works in your specific industry because there are several types of web design that you can actually choose from. You can have a static website, a dynamic website, an e-commerce website. You can have a flat design, a neuromorphic design, and you can have a minimalist design. So neuromorphic actually mimics physical interactions and textures, creating interfaces that blend realism with digital functionality. Again, if your audience appreciates that kind of setup, then go for it. Okay. So when it comes to a web design, you have a few elements that are quintessential. You have visual elements. So visual elements such as layout, shapes, colors, and images and fonts, but also icons. Okay, that's going to be very important in the long run. So besides the visual elements, you also have the functional elements. So functional elements simply mean the aspect or representation of functionalities of your website, and it simply represents what when it comes to a functional element, you have a let's say representation of what the website can do and how it works. So types of functional elements include navigation, user interaction, and AI. So AI in the sense of animation, if you want to really make your website more dynamic. So let me talk to you about how to get started with web design. In the last 20 years, this part also hasn't changed a lot. Even though nowadays you have everything being moved to the cloud. Okay, and so web design starts always with defining your website's purpose. You got to have a clear idea about your website's purpose. What do you want to really? What kind of goals you're trying to get? Okay, what kind of functions you want your website to be about. So define what your website is all about. And your website's purpose will actually determine which platform and layout will work best for you, depending on your geography, depending on the demographics you want to go after, the psychographics, and so on and so forth. Okay. It also will affect how you can optimize your sites to accomplish your goal. So be very clear about the purpose that you want to have. So besides the purpose, you want to really have a clear idea who your target audience is, right? And one thing I want to say here is that you want to have the website resonating with your target audience. That's what I was mentioning a little earlier when I said psychographics play an important role. Psychographics means what? Demographics, geography, but most importantly, the psychology of your target audience. That's going to be quite essential, especially if you are trying to resonate right off the bat. Okay. Now, when it comes to the purpose of several websites, you really have to understand that online stores, for instance, actually are sites used to sell products or services online. Portfolio sites showcase work projects, skills, or achievements. Business websites act as an online representation of a company. Event pages are websites intended to promote upcoming events like conferences or festivals and give potential visitors the info they need to actually attend. And finally, you have blogs, and blogs actually are generally websites that publish new articles or content regularly to inform or entertain visitors. The purpose of a blog could be to sell products, share information, or encourage let's say engagement from readers. If your audience really is looking for something similar. So if you are trying to get into web design, after you define your website purpose, you want to choose a platform. Now, what has changed in the last 20 years is that the platforms nowadays are more consolidated. 20 years ago, they were not that consolidated. You had a few players that were in that space, a few smaller players. Nowadays, you have a few larger players. Okay, so choose a platform to actually create your website. So you want to consider which features and capabilities are required to achieve your site's goal. Again, going back to what I said about your target audience, you have to always keep in mind what your audience is expecting and really choose a platform that is to really give them to meet their expectations. And when it comes to choosing a platform, also think about the CMS. So CMS is a content management system that can help you design, publish, and customize your website. For instance, if you have a WordPress blog, your CMS comes embedded. Okay, so that one thing I want to say here is that you always want to go for something simple. Okay, don't try to complicate things because in the last 20 years things have gone easier and easier, really. So when selecting a platform to build your site, you want to really think about a few features. Think about quick site creation. Okay, responsive web design, everything I'm telling you, you don't have to code anything. You don't have to program everything. You just have to follow the those website builders. Think about the project workflows. If you plan on having multiple users editing and publishing on your website, you want a content management system that allows you to build a common shared environment with grouped resources and shared assets. You also want to have content insights. Think about the pricing options. Pricing has gone down in the last 20 years, so that's really good. If you are thinking about web design today, unless you go through a third party, you don't have to pay that much. Also, think about versatility. So, most website builders will have support for multiple types of businesses and also websites. The best tools will allow you to build whatever you need, whether you are building an e commerce store with thousands of products or publishing your first post on your blog. So, that's kind of important. One thing I want to say here is that since some of the most popular website builders are WordPress, Shopify, Wix, Squarespace, and Weebly. Now, WordPress is by far the most popular with over 37% of sites running on the platform. So that's kind of important to think about it. So next, you want to pick a layout. So if you think about web design, you want to pick a layout. In the last 20 years, layout has become very important because audiences are now expecting a lot in that front. I mean, a lot in that department in terms of layout, in terms of brand identity, in terms of brand representation. So now that you have selected a platform for building your site, you want to decide what your site will look like and how your content will be arranged on the page, right? So depending on which platform you are using to build your site, you will usually have the option to use the drag and drop editor to lay out your site or select from pre-built templates. So it's one of those things where, again, going back to what I said, you have to choose what works for your audience, what resonates with your audience. So some platforms like WordPress allow you to upload third-party templates, so you can consider looking for options in other theme libraries. So your site's layout will also depend on what makes the most sense for your goal, right? You should make it easy for users to quickly find the most important info on the page. Don't try to really waste people's time because otherwise you are going to lower your traffic over time, your website traffic over time. Let me give you an example. Let's say you are a restaurant, right? And so if you're a restaurant, you want to really convey information about your opening hours, but also information about how to book a reservation, right? It's all about revenue, revenue, revenue. But if you are, let's say, a graphic designer laying out your portfolio sites, you want to really maybe display which projects you have worked on in the past, right? So that people can, I mean, visitors can have some kind of context about your work. You can also talk about the type of work you are looking to do. That's going to help you big time. And so when it comes to it's important to understand that everything you do will depend on the kind of information you want to convey. So you also have to think about whether you're looking for a single page layout or a multi-page structure, or even a grid-based design. So whether you opt for a single page layout, multi-page structure, or a grid-based design, the most important consideration should be seamless and intuitive navigation, okay? Because you want actually your target audience to be comfortable with the kind of layout you have. For example, if you have a portfolio site, let's say professionals in areas like photography, graphic design, and marketing often create portfolio sites to showcase their work, right? These sites are highly visual and display content in a way that highlights the best work the individual or business has done. So a portfolio, let's say a photographer's portfolio site might just be a gallery of images, while a marketing agency might share case studies with a mix of text and images. Whatever your audience can really find relevant, do it. In the last 20 years, what I've seen when it comes to web design is that basically content has become more interesting, more dynamic, and also more relevant to your target audience. Like 20 years ago, content was more text, but nowadays content can be anything. It can be visual, it can be audio, it can be text, it can be infographic, it can be anything. Okay, so after you lay out your website, you want to actually source or create the content your site will display. So the specific content types you will need and how much of it will depend on your site's purpose. And your content could include anything, okay? I think I just said it: images, text, logos, videos, and more. So whatever you publish should help you get users closer to taking the desired action on your pages. So that's the CTA on your pages, the call to action. So one way to set your site apart is actually use unique and branded content whenever possible. That way, you are able to differentiate yourself, but also create some kind of loyalty vis-a-vis what visitors are looking for. I mean, it can be tempting to use stock photos on a new website, especially if you don't have images of your own, but this makes your site less likely to engage your audience. So when selecting design elements for your site, keep your brand identity in mind so that your site feels cohesive and professional. That's what you want. You are trying to convey a certain sense of professionalism. So think about quality rather over quantity. So when selecting content for your site, you should seek to make the most important info and content stand out. For example, using a few high quality, impactful images will be better than packing the page with confusing and low quality content, right? You want to really be clear about that. Now, I want to insist on the compelling aspect of your content. It has to be compelling, otherwise, you're going to lose traffic big time. So, compelling content is the main component of any successful website. So, you want to craft original and engaging content that communicates your message clearly. Your content should be relevant, concise, and easy to read quickly. You should also keep the tone and style consistent throughout all your content to maintain a professional and polished look. That's what you want to have. You want to have that sort of professional and polished look, especially in the long run. Okay. So when it comes to the website elements, you have the site architecture that I'm showing you on the screen. You have the site architecture, the navigation menu, the colors, the fonts, the header and footer, and the motion. One thing I've seen in the last 20 years is that when it comes to a web design knowledge, you have a certain agility when it comes to the website elements. Nowadays, you have to pay attention big time to the website elements, especially if you are thinking about a responsive environment. Let's say you want to make sure that your site has context and also content that's applicable to all devices, from computers to laptops to smartphones to tablets and phablets and others. Okay, so the design elements are going to be quite essential from, let's say, an agility point of view. And you need agility. You need agility to actually retain visitors on your site. So when I speak about website elements, I'm speaking about things like site architecture, navigation menu. I think I've said this to you a little earlier. The colors, the fonts, the header and footer, and the motion. I think I just said this to you like a few minutes ago. So the site architecture is actually quite essential if you want to make your site easy to navigate. Your pages should be organized, right? And they have to be linked in an intuitive way. So visitors should be able to find the most important pages on your site quickly in the navigation bar or through links on your site pages. That's really critical. You also have the navigation menu. So this should include links to the most important pages on your site organized in a logical hierarchy. Consider using categories or groups to avoid your menu getting cluttered with too many pages. Your menu also needs to be responsive so that it works properly on all devices. When it comes to colors, you want to think about branding, okay? The colors you use in your website should align with your brand guidelines so that you don't have clashing colors. You can use a color wheel to create a harmonious color palette to use on your website. As a rule, you want to limit your color scheme to three colors: a primary that you use 60% of the time, a secondary that you use 30% of the time, and a tertiary color that you just use 10% of your time. That way you can establish some kind of consistency, okay? So the visual design choices you make on your site play a significant role in shaping visitors' impression about your brand. Remember that first impression counts big time. So having a clean, polished aesthetic will portray your brand as professional and trustworthy, while a cluttered, inconsistent look could cause users to actually look elsewhere, and that's what you do not want to have. So if you are really serious about web design knowledge, you want to really add pages. So after designing the elements, you want to add pages. And when it comes to adding pages, you have a certain you have a let's say a lot of options. Okay, in terms of pages, you have the home page, you have the about page. Okay, so the about page can talk about your company's mission, background, team members, and unique value proposition. And so here you have an opportunity to introduce your brand, right? Your organization or even yourself to site visitors. So you have the contact, you have the product page, you have the blog, and then you have the FAQ. Now the FAQ is sort of optional, but listen, it's always a nice to have. So when structuring your website, you want to start by creating pages that cater to your users' needs. The first pages you create will typically be the pages that I discussed a little earlier. However, as you grow, let's say as a business or discover new customer needs, you can publish more pages to answer your new questions or provide more information. So that's kind of important. Next, you want to optimize the experience. So basically, when it comes to optimizing the experience, you are putting in place the steps or the motion, if you will, to keep customers or let's say visitors engaged. Okay, so you want to really make sure those visitors become customers. So one of the best thing you can do is make sure your website is loading quickly because slow loading pages can push users away, especially nowadays. Like the users are really impatient, which is a good thing. They are impatient versus 20 years ago. Okay. You also want to embrace responsive design. So if a user is browsing on a mobile device and finds your site difficult to navigate, they will likely exit your site and seek an alternative. Okay. And so finally, you want to test your website. So web design knowledge has grown big time in the last 20 years, but testing has always been there. Just because you have published your website doesn't mean your work is done, right? You want to thoroughly test your website regularly to make sure no pages or elements have broken links or have broken just in general. Server issues can cause some pages or resources on your site to load slowly or fail completely. You should also take care to test your site on different devices, operating systems, and browsers so you can make sure users are experiencing, if you will, your site as you intended it in the first place. So, along with testing for functionality, you should also run tests to determine which pages or versions of pages are the best for driving conversions. Okay, and you can use A/B testing to test new pages or designs, so you can continuously improve the results you get from your site. So I'm showing you on the screen here. You can have like experience A and experience B, and see which one really works for you. So in conclusion to this conversation, I share with you 20 years of web design knowledge in 20 minutes, okay? Give you the fundamentals, getting started, and now the conclusion. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.